The Thomson Foundation is made up of two divisions, for broadcasting and for print. I run the broadcasting division. And our task is to further broadcasting in the developing world. Most of our work, in fact, is training in those countries, in those developing countries, although today you catch us in the UK at our base in Cardiff, at Cardiff University. You see here an international group of broadcasters. They're not actually students, they're actually quite experienced broadcasters. They've come here, this particular group, for 12 weeks to study the intricacies of television journalism and radio journalism, to see that there are probably different ways to do these things other than the ways they are used to, maybe indeed just as a refresher.
Perhaps we'll need to wait until we hear what Inspector Rees tells you, and then we'll have to be very selective about what we can use here. Okay?
The course itself is looking at writing skills, broadcast writing skills, writing for television, interviewing skills, stand-up as the Americans call them, pieces to camera we call them. A lot of these people have never done a piece to camera in their lives.
Resorts such as Berry Island are not attracting tourists anymore. There's a time when thousands of tourists from overseas as well as local used to come here to spend their weekends.
So we expose them to that. Editing, packaging, use of graphics, and underneath this always is a theme of ethics and values of broadcast journalism.
Well, my purpose for coming here was really twofold. I mean, one was to actually learn some of the additional things I could add on to my skills and things like that. And then the other aspect, which I found very useful in this course, is that I was able to draw from the experiences of my colleagues from other parts of the world, because it was a very diverse mixture. So every time you get people from different parts of the world, there's a lot you can actually learn from the way they practice, the way they actually view their news subjects as such, because you'll be amazed at the difference in how you actually evaluate news depending on the kind of news environment you come from. So when you have a diversity of this, it also just helps to broaden your background.
I don't really have too much of a technical background. I'm not educated in television as such. So I wanted to just get a feel of how the edit works, how the camera actually works and stuff like that. So those were the main reasons why I did the course, really. And so far so good.
That's okay then, if you feel that's okay, yeah?
No, I mean seriously, I'm not sort of saying don't change it because it's a pain.
Yeah. No, that's okay, that's fine.
English is the teaching language here. We couldn't work with interpreters talking against each other all the time with this course. There are about eight different languages on this course alone. But of course, one of the musts for these people is that they must be able to speak English, otherwise this course wouldn't be possible.
There's two from Ukraine, there's Zambia, Ghana, Rwanda, India, of course, and Seychelles. It's all over.
When I walked into the lecture room here, and I noticed that the lecturer was trying to actually choose the words and try to actually adapt his speech to those of us who might have been not so proficient in the English language, then it did strike me that it is actually a factor that English is a useful medium through cross-culture communication.
And I spoke to Mr. Andrew Dawkin also, and he wanted to come here with you. And
even in my own country, where you find there's a number of dialects which we use for communicating locally, and you might find if you encounter somebody whose language you may not immediately understand, the safest medium to actually communicate in is you automatically switch to English, because you'd assume that they understand what you're saying, and then maybe from that English kind of conversation you might be able to pick up some of the phrases that might drop in of their local language, which will then give you the option of actually choosing, if you did have to go into vernacular, which language would be appropriate to use. Because sometimes you find that in places where there's strong tribal influence, you might find that the choice of a particular language might have certain social implications because of maybe tribal implications and things like that. So the safer option might be, especially at an official level, might be for you to actually opt for English. And in most cases, business is actually conducted in English.